You've been losing, and you don't even know it. Every time you raised your voice, you lost. Every time you explained yourself to someone who didn't deserve an answer, you bled power. Every time you reacted to disrespect, to provocation, to someone testing your patience, you handed them exactly what they wanted: control over you. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something 5 centuries ago that most men still haven't learned today. The most dangerous man in any room is not the one who speaks the loudest. It's the one who doesn't need to speak at all. Today, I'm going to hand you 10 ruthless psychology tricks, drawn from Machiavellianism, dark psychology, and the cold laws of power, that will make you untouchable. Not in theory, in your real life. Starting now. Stop reacting. Stop explaining. Start ignoring, and watch how fast the world begins to reorganize itself around your silence. Trick number 1, stop reacting. The power of the pause. The moment you react, you reveal yourself. Understand that deeply. Every flinch, every snap, every emotional outburst is a telegram sent straight to your enemy, telling them exactly where your wounds are. And Machiavelli knew this better than anyone. He wrote that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find those willing to be deceived. But here's the darker truth. The one who reacts is the easiest to deceive of all, because a reactive man is a predictable man, and a predictable man is a controlled man. When someone insults you and you fire back instantly, you think you're defending yourself. You're not. You're performing for them. You're dancing on their stage, to their music, on their timing. You gave them the puppet strings and didn't even notice. The powerful move, the Machiavellian move, is the pause. Not silence out of weakness, silence out of strategy. When someone throws words at you, designed to trigger you, and you simply look at them, breathe, and say nothing, something shifts in the room. Suddenly they don't know where they stand. Suddenly they're the ones scrambling because your silence becomes a mirror, and most people cannot stand the reflection. This is not about being passive. Passivity is the behavior of the defeated. This is about being deliberate. There is a canyon of difference between a man who doesn't respond because he's afraid and a man who doesn't respond because he doesn't need to. The first one is prey. The second one is the predator choosing when to move. Train yourself starting today to delay every reaction by 5 seconds. Just 5. In those 5 seconds, you'll find something most people never discover. You'll find the exit door from someone else's emotional trap. And once you stop walking into traps, you start building your own. Trick number 2, stop explaining. Explanations are confessions of weakness. Let me tell you something that will sting before it sets you free. Every time you over-explain yourself, you are subconsciously telling the other person that their opinion of you matters more than your own. Read that again. You're not clarifying, you're kneeling. Machiavelli wrote that it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. But what he also understood, buried beneath that famous line, is that the man who constantly justifies himself is neither feared nor loved. He is dismissed. Think about the most powerful people you've ever encountered in your life. Did they chase you down hallways explaining their decisions? Did they send long paragraphs defending why they did what they did? No, they decided, they moved, and the world adjusted. That's authority. Now think about the people who exhausted you with explanations, the ones who couldn't let a single misunderstanding exist without writing an essay about it. How did you perceive them? Weak, insecure, desperate for approval. That's the psychology, and it's brutal. The more you explain, the smaller you become in the eyes of the person listening, not because your words lack logic, but because the act of explaining itself signals that you need their validation to feel settled. And the moment someone realizes you need their approval, they own you. Dark psychology teaches us that perception is the only battlefield that matters. It doesn't matter if you're right. It matters if you look like you need to prove you're right. Those are two entirely different positions of power. One stands on a mountain. The other digs in the dirt, looking for acceptance. From today forward, practice this. Make your decision. State it once if necessary, and let the silence do the rest. No added context. No defensive paragraphs. No chasing understanding. Kings do not explain. They act, and history writes the explanation for the... Trick number 3. Start ignoring the art of strategic indifference. Here is the most disrespectful thing you can do to someone who is trying to control you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No response, no eye contact, no acknowledgement that they even exist in your world. And that is exactly what makes it the most powerful thing you will ever learn. Machiavelli understood that men are driven by two things, fear and desire. But there is a third force he weaponized quietly throughout his work, one that most people overlook: indifference. Because while fear controls the body and desire controls the mind, indifference destroys the ego, and a person with a destroyed ego will unravel themselves without you ever lifting a finger. Think about it. When someone provokes you and you argue back, they feel significant. When someone disrespects you and you react with anger, they feel powerful. But when someone comes at you with everything they have, and you simply continue living as if they are invisible, something inside them cracks. They begin to question themselves. They begin to spiral, not because of what you did, but because of what you refused to do. That is dark psychology at its finest. You didn't attack them. You removed them from your reality. And for a human being, there is no deeper wound than irrelevance. Strategic. Indifference is not about being cold for the sake of being cold. It's about understanding that your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. Every second you spend focused on someone who doesn't deserve it is a second stolen from your growth, your vision, your empire. Machiavelli would tell you, a wise prince must never sit idle in times of peace, but must use that time to prepare for adversity. Your peace is your power. Guard it with ruthless indifference. Don't fight people who are beneath your mission. Just forget them loudly, publicly, permanently. Trick number 4, control the frame, control the game. Every conversation you've ever had, every argument, every negotiation, every silent standoff, all of it was a war over one thing: the frame. The frame is the invisible architecture of every interaction. It decides who holds power, who is reacting, and who is leading. Machiavelli never used the word frame, but every strategy he ever wrote was built on this single concept. He who controls the context controls the outcome. Let me show you how this works in real life. Someone walks up to you and says, "Why are you always so quiet?" You think you're better than everyone. Now, most men make the fatal mistake of answering the question. They step inside the other person's frame. They start defending. They start explaining. And just like that, they've already lost. Because the moment you accept someone else's frame, you are playing their game on their field with their rules. The Machiavellian move is to reject the frame entirely. You don't answer their question, you replace it. You look at them and say, "That's an interesting thing to worry about." Now the frame has shifted. Now they are the one being examined. Now they are the one off balance. This is the ruthless psychology of frame control, and it applies everywhere in business, in relationships, in power dynamics you face every single day. The person who sets the frame is the person who holds the throne. Dark psychology teaches that people don't respond to reality. They respond to the version of reality presented to them. If you present yourself as someone who cannot be questioned, people stop questioning. If you present yourself as someone whose time is sacred, people stop wasting it. Your frame is your kingdom. Never abandon it to enter someone else's chaos. Let them knock on your door. You decide if it opens. Trick number 5, make them chase, never pursue. The moment you start chasing, you start losing. It doesn't matter what you're chasing. A person, a deal, respect, validation. The act of pursuit itself communicates one devastating message to the world: that you don't already have it, and that perception will cost you everything. Machiavelli observed that men by nature desire what they cannot easily obtain. That single line holds the blueprint to an entire psychological empire. Because if people want what pulls away from them, then your greatest weapon is not pursuit. It is withdrawal. Think about every time you chased someone's attention. You texted first. You followed up. You bent your schedule. You softened your standards, and what happened? They pulled further away, not because you weren't worthy, but because your energy told them you didn't believe you were. Now think about the opposite. Think about a time when you pulled back, when you went completely silent, when you stopped showing up. What happened? They came looking for you. They suddenly had questions. They suddenly cared. That is not a coincidence. That is the law of psychological scarcity, and it is as unbreakable as gravity. Dark psychology teaches that human beings do not value what is freely available. They value what feels rare, what feels limited, what feels like it might disappear. When you make yourself constantly available, you become furniture. People walk past you without a second thought. But when you remove yourself strategically, quietly, without announcement, you become a question they cannot stop asking. Machiavelli would tell you that the prince who makes himself too accessible cheapens his own throne. You must learn to be present enough to be remembered, but absent enough to be desired. Stop chasing people. Stop chasing outcomes. Position yourself so well, so firmly, so undeniably, that the world has no choice but to come find you. And when it does, make it wait. Trick number 6. Read the room before you rule it. So most men walk into a room and immediately start performing. They talk too fast. They laugh too loud. They try to impress everyone before they've studied anyone. And that desperation, that hunger to be seen, is the very thing that makes them invisible. Machiavelli wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. And the only way to control what people see is to first understand what they are looking for. That requires one skill most men are too impatient to develop: observation. The most dangerous person in any room is not the one commanding attention. It is the one sitting quietly, watching every handshake, every glance, every shift in body language, cataloging it all like a general mapping enemy terrain before the first shot is fired. That is the man who will own the room by the end of the night. Not because he fought for it, but because he understood it before anyone else even realized there was a war. Dark psychology reveals a brutal truth about human nature. People expose themselves constantly. They tell you who they are through micro-expressions, through the jokes they laugh at, through who they look at when something funny happens, through the way they treat people who offer them nothing. All of this is intelligence, and intelligence is the currency of power. Machiavelli was not a warrior, he was a reader of men. That is what made him lethal. He did not overpower his enemies with force. He dismantled them with understanding. You must develop this same discipline. Walk into every room like a student before you walk in like a king. Watch first, speak last. Let others reveal their insecurities, their allegiances, their weaknesses, and file it all away in silence, because the man who reads the room never needs to fight for control of it. He simply takes it when the time is right. Trick number 7, never show your full hand. The man who tells you everything about himself in the first conversation has already disarmed himself. He handed you the map to his mind, the keys to his insecurities, and the blueprint to his destruction, all wrapped in what he thought was honesty. Machiavelli warned that a prince who is seen through entirely is a prince who will be conquered entirely. And that warning is just as lethal today as it was 500 years ago. Transparency is sold to you as a virtue. Society tells you to be open book. Share your feelings, reveal your plans, broadcast your next move, but ask yourself who benefits when you become completely readable, not you. The people who benefit are the ones watching you, the ones studying your patterns, the ones waiting for the perfect moment to use your openness against you. Dark psychology teaches that mystery is the single most magnetic and protective force a man can possess. When people can't fully figure you out, they assign you more power than you may even have. They fill in the blanks with their own fear, their own curiosity, their own respect. But the moment you overshare, the moment you lay every card on the table, that mystery dies, and with it your leverage. This does not mean you become dishonest. Deception and discretion are not the same thing. A dishonest man lies about what he is. A discreet man simply never reveals all of what he is. One is a fraud. The other is a fortress. Machiavelli operated in a world of betrayal, shifting alliances, and men who smiled while sharpening knives behind their backs. His survival rule was simple: let them see enough to trust you, but never enough to predict you. Carry that into your daily life. Share selectively, reveal strategically. Let people know just enough to stay interested, but never enough to stay comfortable. Your mystery is your armor. Never take it off for someone who hasn't earned the view. Trick number 8. Let them underestimate you, then strike. There is a weapon so quiet, so invisible, so devastatingly effective, that most men will never even recognize it exists. And that weapon is being underestimated. Machiavelli understood that the man who appears weak while building strength in the shadows holds the deadliest advantage in any game of power. Because when people underestimate you, they stop watching you, they stop guarding themselves around you, they stop considering you a threat. And that is the exact moment you become their greatest one. Think about how the world works. The loud man gets all the attention. He walks into rooms announcing himself. He tells everyone his plans, his goals, his ambition. And what happens? Every competitor now knows exactly where to aim. Every enemy now knows exactly what to disrupt. He made himself a target by demanding to be seen. Now think about the man in the corner who says nothing, the one they laugh at, the one they overlook in meetings, the one they assume has no ambition because he doesn't wear it on his face like a billboard. That man is not weak. That man is loading. Dark psychology teaches us that the most dangerous strike is the one no one sees coming, and no one sees it coming from the man they already dismissed. This is not about playing small forever. This is about strategic patience. The Machiavellian art of letting the world assign you a role far beneath your actual capability, while you sharpen your blade in complete silence. Let them think you are ordinary. Let them think you are comfortable where you are. Let them think they've already figured you out. Because the moment they relax, the moment their guard drops completely, you move, not with noise, not with announcement, with results. So undeniable that by the time they realize what happened, you are already 3 moves ahead, and the game is over. Machiavelli wrote that the one who wishes to deceive will always find someone willing to be deceived. Let them deceive themselves about who you are. Their arrogance is your cover. Their dismissal is your invitation. Their comfort is your countdown. And when the clock hits 0, strike with everything you've been quietly building. No warning, no mercy, no second chance for them to prepare. Trick number 9, protect your energy like a throne. But let me tell you something nobody wants to admit. The greatest threat to your power is not your enemy. It is the people closest to you who drain you slowly, quietly, consistently, until one morning you wake up and realize you have nothing left. Not because someone defeated you, but because you allowed the wrong people unlimited access to your energy. And energy, understand this clearly, is the throne, not money, not status, not reputation. Energy, because without it you cannot think, you cannot strategize, you cannot build, you cannot execute a single move on the chessboard of your life. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the danger of flatterers and parasites, men who surround the prince not out of loyalty, but out of hunger. They feed on his attention, they consume his time, they wrap themselves in the language of friendship while slowly bleeding him dry, and the prince, too proud or too blind to see it, allows it, because cutting them off feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is the trap. Dark psychology exposes a truth most people will never accept. There are individuals in your life right now who do not want to see you win. They don't hate you openly. They don't sabotage you directly. They simply keep you distracted. They pull you into pointless arguments. They dump their emotional chaos at your feet. They call you at midnight not because they need you, but because they cannot stand the thought of you being at peace while they are not. These are energy vampires. And every second you give them is a second stolen from the man you are trying to become. Machiavelli would tell you that a wise prince must be willing to be called cruel in order to maintain order in his domain. Protecting your energy will require cruelty in the eyes of those who have grown comfortable feeding off of you. They will call you cold. They will call you selfish. They will say you've changed. Good, let them, because you are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be unbreakable for yourself. Start auditing your circle with the precision of a general inspecting his ranks. Who adds to your clarity? Keep them. Who consistently leaves you drained, confused, or doubting yourself? Remove them. Not with anger, not with confrontation, with distance, with silence, with the cold, strategic removal of access. Your energy is not a public park. It is a throne room, and from this day forward no one enters without earning the right to stand in your presence. Trick number 10. Become the person they can't predict, can't control, can't break. You've made it here, and if you've truly absorbed everything I've told you, not just heard it, but let it sink into the architecture of who you are, then you are no longer the same person who pressed play on this video. Something has shifted. Something behind your eyes is now colder, sharper, more deliberate. Good. Because this final section is not another lesson. It is the moment you step across the line and never look back. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a river. When it floods, it destroys everything in its path. But the wise man builds dams and channels before the storm arrives. You have just built yours. Every trick you've learned today, the power of the pause, the authority of silence, the weapon of indifference, the dominance of frame control, the magnetism of withdrawal, the intelligence of observation, the fortress of mystery, the patience of being underestimated, the ruthlessness of protecting your energy, these are not separate tools. They are one architecture, one system, one identity. The identity of a man who cannot be shaken because he no longer reacts. A man who cannot be manipulated because he no longer explains. A man who cannot be controlled because he no longer gives access to anyone who hasn't earned it. This is what it means to become untouchable. Not that nothing reaches you, but that nothing moves you without your permission. Dark psychology teaches that the most powerful person in any dynamic is the one who is hardest to read, the one whose next move is never obvious, the one who can sit in chaos and remain still while everyone around him collapses into panic. That is who you are now becoming, not because you are heartless, not because you are cruel, but because you have finally understood that the world does not reward the emotional, It does not protect the reactive. It does not elevate the man who pours himself out for people who would never do the same in return. The world respects the man who moves with precision, speaks with intention, and protects his energy as if his entire empire depends on it, because it does. Machiavelli was not a monster. He was a realist. He saw men as they were, not as they wished to be seen, and he built his philosophy on that brutal clarity. That is your inheritance now. See people clearly. See yourself clearly, and never again trade your power for the temporary comfort of being liked. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be remembered. You are here to be the man that others study from a distance and wonder, what is he thinking? What does he know? Why can't I rattle him? Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them watch you rise in silence while they drown in noise. That is your path now, and it is irreversible. Now, before you leave, I want you to do something. Drop a comment below with the words, "I am the storm they didn't see coming." That is your declaration. That is your signature. That is the moment you draw the line between who you were and who you are choosing to become. Say it. Type it. Own it. And if this video put iron in your spine, if it rewired something inside you that needed to be rewired, then hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications, because this is not the last time I'll hand you weapons like these. This is only the beginning. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay dangerous.